All the attention of the Manhattan criminal trial of Donald Trump. That gets it all, right? Which by most accounts is not only the weakest, but also the most absurd. But there was a lot of other Trump legal news this past week. Let's get caught up with federal defense attorney Ron Chapman. So, Ron, the Georgia Court of Appeals will hear an appeal of Judge Scott McAfee's decision to allow DA Fani Willis to stay on the case. Trump's team wants her disqualified based on a conflict of interest and misconduct. This is a win for Trump and the other defendants and kind of pushes this ridiculous racketeering case back even further, right?
Absolutely. It gives us a sign that Georgia as a whole is relatively disappointed about what's going on down there in Fulton County. We saw the judge's ruling. We've got some issues with it. And the fact that Fani Willis clearly lied about an affair that she was having. And now we've got the appeals court willing to take a look and determine whether or not she needs to be kicked off the case. That certainly means that the trial is not going to happen as scheduled and likely not going to happen before an election.
So the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case by special counsel Jack Smith also took it on the chin. You had the federal judge, Aileen Cannon. She postponed everything indefinitely until, and this is smart, until the Supreme Court decides on presidential immunity. Is that a surprise, Ron? And is it likely this will be put off until after the election? And we're looking right now on the screen of all those boxes, most of which were staged, now we know, by the FBI. The total amount of documents was like one manila file, and yet they put all these there to make it look like this was stacks and stacks of Donald Trump stuff.
Let me address the staging first. This isn't the first time I've seen this in a federal investigation. Often they'll conduct the search warrant, and then at the end of it, they'll start taking some photographs after they've had the ability to mess the place up and make it look dirty, which is great for the jury later on at trial. That's exactly what's happening here. But yeah, Judge Cannon had a May 20th trial date that she scratched. Now she's set pretrial matters to July 22nd. I imagine she anticipates the Supreme Court will come down with their decision in late June or early July. I'm thinking probably July. And then she will have to take some time, just like the D.C. judge, Judge Chutkan, will have to determine whether or not there are official acts involved in this case. Because I think we all understand the Supreme Court will likely grant immunity, but the question will be, what is an official act? And that's what both courts will have to figure out.
So we now go to the Soros-funded Alvin Bragg prosecution of Trump in New York City. Doesn't seem to be going as the left had planned it should, right? Let me ask you this.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so the prosecution's witnesses seem to be doing more damage to the government. You had Stormy Daniels. She didn't seem to have a lot of credibility, but was obviously very salacious in her story about the alleged night and affair with Trump 18 years ago, by the way. And next week, we get to hear a convicted liar, Michael Cohen. Let me ask you this. You're the defense. You're getting ready for Cohen to take the stand next week. And we're going to pull up a picture of what he wore the other day, which is prejudicial, which is something that Donald Trump is not allowed to go back at. And that was Donald Trump, there it is, behind bars in an orange jumpsuit. Cohen's allowed to do that. Trump is not allowed to respond.
Can you imagine? I mean, we have a witness, Stormy Daniels, who profits $500,000 to $1 million potentially if Trump goes to jail because she doesn't have to pay the attorney's fees back. And then we've got another witness, the prosecution's star witness, openly wearing a T-shirt with the man in jail. I couldn't think of a worse person to put on the stand. In fact, I was shocked when the prosecutors elected to close their case with Cohen. Sometimes you have bad witnesses. Prosecutors will tell you. Crime doesn't always happen with angels in the mix, right? Bad people sometimes are there. But usually you try to bury those folks in the middle and then come out with something later. And I don't want to go too far here, but Weisselberg is the question, I think, on my mind now, and whether or not the prosecution will be able to get his $750,000 agreement in without his testimony. Because if they put him on the stand, it seems like he probably would testify for Trump, and that would come either in the defense case in chief or at the end of the prosecutor's case, really putting a bad close on this trial. It is not going well for the prosecution at all here.
So Trump is going to have to bite his tongue when Michael Cohen testifies, or risk, or maybe goad Judge Merchan, sending him to jail for violating his gag order. So, Ron, you're a defense attorney. What's your main objective next week? If you're going to cross-examine Cohen, what are you doing?
Well, it's simple. I think you just have to get this guy fired up. I think Trump has enough discipline to sit there when somebody's saying bad things about him and not react. Occasionally he has during this trial, but it hasn't been that serious. But what you have to do is get Cohen fired up. You have to challenge his credibility. You have to lock him into several perjury traps, and you have to get him to perjure himself on the stand, which I'm pretty sure he will do, given that he can't seem to keep his story straight at all. I think most defense attorneys in the country would chomp at the bit. In fact, I was just talking with another defense attorney just a few moments ago about how we would chomp at the bit to cross-examine somebody like Michael Cohen. I think it's going to be a very interesting cross-examination and probably a great day for the defense.
Defense team sitting around a conference table. I'll do it. No, I want to do it. I want to do it. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun doing that against Michael Cohen. Ron Chapman, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.